Hello and welcome everybody, my name is Kev the DevTV and today we got week 5 of the UGA and our team builder against the Merseyside Marowaks. Roll the intro. Our opponent this week is Mr. Yipster with his team, the Merseyside Marowaks, and if you take a look at the standings, we are kind of in the same spot, so this battle is going to be super interesting. If you are not subscribed to my channel yet, definitely make sure to do so, and also make sure to like and share this video with your friends. Mr. Yipster has a pretty interesting team revolving around his Gigantamax Dreadnought and Politoad as a range setter. This is also one of his primary modes that I think and expect he will bring this week. So Politoad and Dreadnought on the rain is a phenomenal combination, especially if you have the swift swim ability on the Dreadnought, which then allows it to be even faster than my Sneasel, of course. And then I won't be able to set up Colossal with Steam Engine and Weakness Policy, which means he gets to knock out my Colossal before it does anything at all. So this is definitely a mode that I expect the Merseyside Marowaks to bring this week, and I also see Leipard as very likely to be in their team, especially as they brought it to pretty much every week so far. And it also makes sense, you know, it's a very good support Pokemon with the Prankster ability. Although I have Serena, I think it's likely to come through because you can do a lot with it unless I have Serena on the field. As for likely Pokemon on my opponent's side, I think Rillaboom will be one of the most likely Pokemon because I have Gastrodon on my side, and Rillaboom is a perfect counter to my Gastrodon, unfortunately. And I also have the Crawdaunt on my team, of course, which could also deal some good troubles to my opponent this week. So this is pretty much likely to be in his team, and it's also a very good Pokemon on its own. Next up we have Gardevoir, which has been in many of his matches as well. Gardevoir is one of his 2 Trick Room setters and works super well with Escavalier, and he brought Escav to most of his matches, so Gardevoir being in the team is not too unlikely, I would say. And we got Hitmonlee. He did not bring Hitmonlee yet, but I think Hitmonlee can do some pretty decent damage to my team this week. I do have the resistance with Dusclops somehow, but you know, it could hit my Colossal really hard, my Sneasel, the Drampa, and potentially even the Crawdaunt. So that's a pretty good mon on his side this week. So I might think he brings it, and Hitmonlee will see its debut for the Merseyside Marowaks this week. Then we have Escav. Escav is the kill leader on their team, so I would say it's going to be in this week as well. I don't see it as too strong against my team. It can one-shot Colossal, however, but Colossal also can one-shot it unless it runs the Ockerberry. Yeah, let's see. I still think it's likely to come through because it deals with pretty much all my other Pokemon very well, especially with Serena, which will be a big thing this week. So I think it might come. Chandelure is also a good Pokemon on his side this week because it gives him the fire type resistance, which he needs pretty urgently with the fire type weakness he has in his team. If you look at his team, Rillaboom is weak against fire, Escav is super weak against fire, Skarmory is, Charger Bug is, and Magneton is. So there's pretty much half of his team being very vulnerable to fire types, and Chandelure will do some good work for him this week. So I need to be aware of this and not blindly just hit max flares into Escavalier when Chandelure might be in the back, because that would be pretty bad for me actually. Then as for unlikely Pokemon, I think Skarmory, Charger Bug, and Magneton will not come. I don't see Charger Bug as a threat at all. I don't really think it could do anything to me this week. Skarmory is interesting and could do a bit against Pinsir and Serena and the likes, but the steel typing, it would just give him too much fire weaknesses, so I don't think it's coming this week. And for Magneton, it's pretty much the same reasoning. It could do some work, but adding another fire type weakness to his team this week would not be the best choice. So for myself, I see the following 3 must brings. The first of them are Gastrodon, Colossal and Sneasel, and I think it makes pretty much sense to bring the 3 of them. I already just explained that he has a big fire type weakness, and why would I then not bring my Colossal, which is a phenomenal fire type. I think it's pretty good this week. It also can deal with Politoed and Dreadnought, although not as well because both of them easily knock it out, but it still can deal with Chandelure, with Rillaboom, with Escav, Magneton and Skarmory very well. Also Charger Pack in case that comes through, but and it could potentially even deal with Dreadnought and Politoed under the right conditions. The set that I'm running is pretty much standard. It's pairing with the Sneasel. The max speed I want to hit this week is 225 for a potentially scarfed Rillaboom. I do want to outspeed it just in case, and unfortunately I cannot outspeed Dreadnought and Rain. I could after activating Steam Engine, but I do not have a reliable way to activate the Steam Engine this week other than Aqua Jet from Dreadnought. But even with a very defensive and especially attacking set, Roland actually still deals too much under Rain to my Colossal. And even if I then could one-shot the Rillaboom, Politoed would KO Colossal in return, so this is too much of a weird gimmicky trade that I don't want to do this week. Then we have Sneasel. Sneasel, as I just said, it's in the team for Colossal, of course. I want to outspeed Liepard, so I speed crapped it this week because I need a faster fake out in case we have Sneasel and Liepard on the field. I have Surf for Colossal, of course, Icicle Crash to check Rillaboom. I should be faster than the Rillaboom unless it is scarfed, but then I can't outspeed it really anyways. And I got Throat Chop for Chandelure that deals about 80% damage if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it even had the chance to knock it out. I don't recall that perfectly fine by now, but it's a very good answer to Chandelure, of course. Third must bring is Gastrodon, because Gastrodon checks the Dreadnought, the Politoed. I can bring it with Storm Drain, switch it in, and then automatically, if everything goes perfectly well, have a +2 special attack right from the get-go, which would be amazing. Earth Power checks Dreadnought, Chandelure and Magneton. Sludge Bomb I brought for God of War and Rillaboom. I don't see a water type move as useful this week, especially because the one Pokemon vulnerable to water I can check with Earth Power. Rindo is on my Gastrodon, so I can leave at least one Grassy Glide, or maybe even a Wood Hammer if I get lucky with the roll, so my EV spread allows me to at least have a chance to survive a Wood Hammer. I think it deals between 190 and 215% damage to how I spread my Gastrodon, so that means I have a little less than a 50% chance that my Gastrodon will actually survive a Wood Hammer. As for my good options, we have some very cool Pokemon again this week, I would say. Drampa is my first one, and I actually will bring Drampa. You can see the set on the screen right now, and I would say it's a bit unconventional. So I brought Cloud9 in order to disable the rain mode that my opponent has on their team. And this is a pretty cool technique because, yeah, we will see it when we get to its arena, but Cloud9 is pretty cool on Drampa this week. What I can say now already is that Cloud9 will disable the rain that Politoed might set, and then Dreadnought's Swift Swim ability is kind of negated, and I don't need to deal with it anymore, and then I finally have a chance, to outspeed it. I run Shadow Ball on Drampa because that actually covers the option of Chandelure. It deals some very good damage onto it, and also covers for Gardevoir better than something else would do. I do have Flamethrower because that, it covers all fire weaknesses, and the more the better in this sense, and Helping Hand is here to support one very specific Pokemon on my team this week, and we will see about this once we get to it. And then I got Iron Ball as my item, which is there to underspeed as Cavalier even in Trick Room. This is what I want to do. So in case Trick Room comes up, I do have the Iron Ball on my Dramper and I can underspeed the S-Cav, which would be phenomenal because then I can just KO it before it actually gets to attack me, even in Trick Room. And it's it's the primary Trick Room sweeper my opponent has. Next up we have Boltund. I thought a lot about Boltund because Boltund can do some very interesting things. My opponent's Pokemon, Eerie Impulse them, provide helping hand support, nuzzle them, I could nuzzle the Dreadnought. Thunder Fang even deals phenomenal damage with Strong Jaw onto the Dreadnought. I think it's even enough to knock it out if I remember the card correctly, so it was a very, very good option this week. However, I decided to not bring it because I think I have better options, and yeah, I thought if I bring Boltund I might be too frail, so I swapped that for something more bulky in the end. Next up we have Dusclops. Dusclops does have access to Trick Room. I could imprison Trick Room, I could run Trick Room, I could Nightshade, Bulldoze for Colossal. Will-O-Wisp would be actually pretty good this week because of all the physical attackers like Dreadnought, Rillaboom, Hitmonlee, Scav, and so on. So none of them really like being burned. So that would be great in theory, but it just with Chandelure in the team and even some of the other Pokemon that hit just too hard, knock off on Rillaboom and so on, I don't think it's the best choice, so I decided to bench it this week. Corviknight is the next Pokemon on my team that I will actually bring, because it allows me to wall a lot of his physical threats. Although most of his attackers are physical, I decided to EV into special this week, because I can, with Iron Defense, I easily get to mitigate the missing defensive EVs, but I do need to live special attacking moves as well. So I decided to put my EVs in that and push my defense in that sense, and then my physical defense will be boosted by Iron Defense. I also brought Roost for additional bulk and Fidgy Berry because that will allow me to actually restore HP once I'm low. And Brave Bird is in there for Rillaboom and Hitmonlee, potentially Ironhead I run mainly for Gardevoir. Unnerve just feels more useful in the Draft League format to me than Mirror Armor does because of the various berries he might run. Especially this week. For example, if he runs Ockerberry on his Cavalier, then I can bring in Corviknight as soon as I know that and deny the berry from him, securing the one-hit KO. And to be honest, this week I would not be surprised of a berry on Dreadnought as Cavalier or Gardevoir. So these are 3 Pokemon this week where I could totally see a berry to make them a bit more bulky and get the necessary setup and so on. Next up we have Serena, and Serena is actually phenomenal this week. She checks the main rain mode that I have pretty much trouble dealing with otherwise, and with Scarf on her and 101 speed I actually get to outspeed non-Scarfed Rillaboom. I couldn't outspeed Scarfed Rillaboom, so hey. And get to KO it with Triple XL if I want to. And I can also outspeed non-rain Dreadnought with this speed, which means if I pair it with Cloud9 Dramper in the beginning, I get to outspeed Dreadnought and can one-hit KO Dreadnought. And I can even one-hit KO Gigantamax Dreadnought, even if it's a defensive one, if I have Helping Hand on my Dramper, which is why I need that move, and I'm really excited to bring that and show that off this week. So I hope my opponent will lead Dreadnought Politoed, like in the first game, where I lead Serena Dramper and then be surprised by its powers. Charm is there to reduce attack just in case, when let's say I get to knock out the Dreadnought fast, but then I need to switch because I'm choice locked, and then I only manage to bring it in and into Pokemon that resist, like Triple XL and Dropkick. So what I have to do then pretty much is probably go for Charms because of all the physical attackers. Like, for example, against this Cavalier, this would be super useful. Yeah, I brought Dropkick over Grassy Glide or Power Whip because I don't have Wildlands this week and I don't want to miss. If he doesn't bring Grassy Terrain, then it's not as useful anymore, and you know, the damage is kind of the same and it doesn't matter. The good thing about Dropkick is that it lowers my opponent's attack stat, and that's very valuable against all the physical attackers. Windy Majesty, of course, mainly on Serena because it's incredible against Prankster Liepard. It helps me against Grassy Glide, Rillaboom, all that stuff. So I feel like this is a very solid choice as well. As for not so good options on my side this week, we have Pinsir, Hitmontop, and Crawdont left. Pinsir felt like the weaker Serena again this week because Pinsir is actually having kind of the same weaknesses as Serena, but doesn't get to deal as much damage to like the main rain mode and so on, so I didn't see it as useful this week. Hitmontop would be very useful, especially with Intimidate, but with Chandelure on their team and also Skarmory, I felt like maybe that's not the best option, and maybe I don't need Intimidate this week. Maybe I have other ways. And Crawdont just has too many weaknesses this week. It would be phenomenal during rain, of course, but it suffers against Chandelure kind of because of Energy Ball. It suffers against Magneton, against Charger Bug, against Rillaboom, you know, against Hitmonlee even. There's a lot of Pokemon that check it this week, so even though it would be a good answer to quite some Pokemon, I think it could OHKO Dreadnought with a superpower, it could knock out Chandelure easily, it could deal with a Scav probably. There's too many threats on my opponent's team for Crawdont this week. It would be a cool addition to the team, but at the same time it loses too many of my opponent's Pokemon. That's my week 5 team builder for the UGA. Let me know what you think about my team in the comments down below. Definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Also, liking and sharing this video would be appreciated as always, so please go ahead and do that as well. Thanks for tuning in and see you next time.